Welcome to Living Our Faith with Archbishop Jerome Listecki. The latest news, important issues, and stories of Catholics living their faith in the Archdiocese of Milwaukee. Here's co-host Bob Bennis.
Good morning and welcome to Living Our Faith here on Relevant Radio. Today we talk to a woman who says that God put a passion for pro-life on her heart from as far back as she can remember. We're going to talk about life today. We're going to be talking with the director of the Women's Care Center of Milwaukee. But first we say hello to Archbishop Listecki. Archbishop, good morning.
Good morning, Bob. Good morning.
It's great to see you. Great to be here. And what better topic to talk about than life as we get ready for the March for Life?
Right. And God willing, always, you have to get on that plane and get there and can go through the march. But this will be a time when I'll accompany a number of young people who are going to Washington for the March for Life. It was a tremendous experience for me the last time I was there. It was 650,000 young people.
On a cold day. They're always cold.
Wasn't last year, the year
before.
The year before. And it was a cold day.
Mm-hmm.
You're absolutely right. It was a cold day. And I think if I were a politician, one of the things I would look at is all these people, that were marching, they were 17, 18, 19.
Mm-hmm.
They were the young people. These are the people who are going to be going into the voting booths, and they're going to be casting their ballots in 3, 4, 5 years.
Make that connection now,
and to understand.
Mm-hmm.
The importance and what they see as an important issue in developing and forming our country, and it was so important, I think, to be able to be a part of that,
mm-hmm.
To be able to see those young people and their dedication to pro-life issues.
It's always good to see the pictures that come out of that march, the video that comes out of that march. Unfortunately, it's disappointing not to see the pictures and video on secular TV.
Could you imagine bringing 600,000 people to Milwaukee and then have a blackout?
Right.
When it comes to the media, that's exactly what happens. When I was there 2 years ago, they had a group that was talking about gun control. And with 2,000 people there for that. They're off to the side. It looked like a drop in a bucket compared to. They got more coverage, than the pro-life march received, and so it really should tell you something. But thank God for Relevant Radio, for EWTN. Those are the ones. And another thing, a young man said at the mass that I was a part of. There were about 17,000 at the mass in the auditorium. And he said, "I know." He said that the mainstream media doesn't cover us. I know they don't think this is an important issue. He took out his iPhone, and he says, "But we will win because we communicate through the use of these
mm-hmm.
devices.
Mm-hmm.
We make sure that our message gets out." It got just tremendous, cheers, and that's exactly it. You can't stifle the voice of people now, given the social
given
media.
the grassroots opportunities through social media.
Right, absolutely.
And we have people that are out there on the front lines on a daily basis, and we are very pleased to have with us today Sharon Hudy. Sharon is the director of the Women's Care Center of Milwaukee, and that quote I mentioned before is attributed to you. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
It's great to have you here.
Sharon, usually when we have a guest, and you're a first-time guest, but you're going to be here, I'm sure, periodically.
Wonderful.
But Sharon, tell us a little about your faith journey. Tell us about the home, how you were raised, and the family that kind of surrounded you. Tell us a little bit about
Absolutely. I was so blessed to be raised in a traditional Catholic home. My parents were very much involved in our Catholic faith, and they led us on that journey as well. I remember when it was time for them to decide for the four of us to go to school, my mom absolutely said, and my dad agreed, that they were going to send us to Catholic schools, no matter how much of a struggle it might have been for them along the way. When we looked up from our desks, they wanted us to see the crucifix on the wall. And that has made such an impact on my life. It's been such a blessing to have them as leaders in my life to show me the way and to bring me into a closer relationship with God. And that is seriously carried through in all that I do in my life's journey, including what I'm doing today, which I'm so blessed to be the director of the Women's Care Center and to be serving moms and babies every single day.
You're a native of the Milwaukee area.
I am. Mm-hmm.
And high school?
I went to St. Jude the Apostle grade school, as well as St. Agnes, actually, and Pius High School.
You have a passion for the pro-life activities then?
Since little on, actually. And it's so interesting to see how God has brought opportunities for me to be pro-life through my life. And I think about at St. Jude when we had pen pals with St. Coletus. And it was such an awesome experience to work with people who, you know, we could develop a relationship with people that were different from us. My two pen pals actually were in their 60s, and they loved the same candy that I loved, and we were able to draw pictures together, and it made a huge impact on me.
Now, what is St. Coletus?
St. Coletus works with individuals with mental disabilities, and so for me as a child in grade school, it was such a blessing for me to be able to relate to somebody on that level and to care for them and to receive unconditional love. I mean, that's truly what they gave to me. And it was a way of me to be pro-life. And I remember at Pius learning about justice, and it compelled me to make a phone call to the president of Boston Store when he wanted to have a panel discussion with Gloria Steinem in a group, and I called him, and he was very gracious, and I said, you know, I don't know if you want to just rethink that. And here I am, a high school student, and he took my phone call, and I felt, you know, that it was important for me to speak up and to do something like that.
Regardless of the outcome, it was important just to be able to know that this is something I felt I had to do.
Absolutely.
And to go ahead and do it.
That's exactly right. Yes. And then, you know, at Marquette, of course, you know, getting involved in Midnight Run, which is helping to feed the homeless and to be of service to them. But also, you know, I went to Marquette for marketing and public relations, and to actually use what I learned at Marquette for good. I was able to put a proposal together to Wisconsin Right to Life and to say to them, this is how I think we can strengthen the pro-life movement. You know, so there were so many different opportunities given to me to be pro-life. And I really believe that my faith education and my Catholic education has helped to inspire that and encourage that along the way.
What's a shame, Sharon, and I see that constantly, is pro-lifers are characterized as only caring about the baby in the womb.
Absolutely,
you know,
yeah.
And yet the pro-lifers that I've met and I've had the privilege of encountering, certainly that's a tremendous issue. And I personally think, as a society, we're not going to be back on the right track. And I was talking about this with Bob earlier. We're not going to be back on the right track unless we start to recognize the respect for life right from the moment of conception.
Right.
We all have to work for it. But we never forget the poor, the downtrodden, the individuals who are disabled, who are sick. That's all a part of it.
Well, it's funny because that is who we serve at the Women's Care Center. You know, we have women that I say, I mean, they come to us at their most broken point. I liken the women that we serve to women who are living in poverty, and I don't just mean financial distress. I'm talking about women who are living in poverty of life skills. Mm-hmm. You know, the life skills that I was so blessed to have, learned from my parents. We do. That's very true. Mm-hmm. The poverty of truth, you know, the poverty of self-esteem, and that's from women of all socioeconomic levels. But we are serving the poorest of the poor as well. People who don't know where their next meal is going to come from. People who are homeless. And we need to support them along their way as well.
That's why it's so important, I think, for individuals, especially people of faith, to understand when they're talking about being pro-life, they're talking about embracing the entirety of the gospel message. From womb to tomb, but from womb to heaven, in the best sense of the word. You know, Sharon, obviously, you know, this has been a passion with you throughout your life. Talk to us about how that's grown how they, and you said a lot of opportunities have come to be pro-life. Talk to us in the the married years when you're mom and you've got a family to raise.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember one of the turning points for me was that I was working as a marketing strategist for a design firm here in town, and I was doing a lot of traveling at the time, and my husband and I really wanted to have children, and we were having difficulty in that area. And I will never forget getting on the plane with a coworker of mine for another trip with a client, and he was especially crabby that day, and I think this sort of maybe kicked it off. And I was sitting in the plane, and I was looking out the window, and I just remember saying, really, God, is this it? And I thought, I just felt so much pain in my heart because I really wanted to have a family with my husband. And it wasn't that long after that part of the prayer I said, if it is your will, then let it be done in this way. And I love watching how God works, and I've seen how he works with the Women's Care Center, too, in terms of getting us here. But he did that in my life, too. Shortly after, my mom was talking to a friend of hers, and she introduced us to St. Gerard, the patron saint of mothers and motherhood. And that's right. And we started to pray for his intercession, and 6 months later, I was pregnant.
Wow.
And we decided we were just going to let God work in our lives and just, let things happen naturally if it was God's will, and it was. And we have this beautiful little almost 7-year-old daughter. And what was so cool about that, too, is that 8 months after I gave birth to our daughter, Olivia, I was introduced to the Women's Care Center.
Wow.
And I truly believe that God knew that it would be difficult for me to lead an effort like this without being a mom myself, knowing how important that was to me. I mean, the awe that I have of his love and mercy for each of us so individually.
We'd like to hear a little bit more on that connection and that transition into your position with the Women's Care Center. But first, we have to take a break. We've got news from the Catholic Herald coming up, and we'll be right back to Living Our Faith here on Relevant Radio.
Hospice. It's the one word that people are afraid to say out loud. Yet for someone who has experienced St. Camilla's Hospice, it takes on a whole new meaning.
We chose St. Camilla's Hospice because it was home hospice. I think it would have broken Lois's heart if she had to leave and go to a strange place. One of the things that we particularly appreciated was the Catholic help that we got when Lois was in hospice. We had pastoral help. We had chaplains who were absolutely fantastic. They were all so friendly. The hospice care was as good for Lois as it was for me.
Hospice care is a physical and spiritual journey, not just for the patient, but for an entire family. St. Camilla's Hospice provides compassionate care right in your loved one's own home. All caregivers and resources are thoughtfully selected from the St. Camilla's community, which continues to serve your family long after the physical care has ended. To learn more, go to relevantradio.com, keyword hospice.
On this, the third weekend of the new year, good morning, I'm Grace David, with headlines from the Catholic Herald and CatholicHerald.org. Bitterly cold temperatures in Gary, Indiana didn't keep more than 700 people from attending Bishop Hines' installation Mass on January 6th. The new Indiana bishop thanked Archbishop Listecki for serving as mentor and teacher and father and brother, and thanked Milwaukee's Bishop Emeritus Richard Skilba for sharing the importance of servitude. Bishop Hine is the fourth bishop of the Diocese of Gary. By now, you've probably heard that Pope Francis is coming to North America later this year, and you can be there too. The Holy Father is all set for the World Meeting of Families in Philadelphia in September, making that his first official papal visit to the United States. This triennial conference is the world's largest Catholic family gathering. The theme for 2015, Love is Our Mission, the Family Fully Alive. Through prayer, workshops, and activities, organizers hope to emphasize the positive impact of families on society. Best of all, you can join Archbishop Listecki and Catholics from across southeastern Wisconsin at this historic event through a special pilgrimage. The Archdiocese of Milwaukee's Nazareth Project is sponsoring the trip, which includes Mass with the Archbishop on September 26th and Mass with Pope Francis the following day. For more information on the World Meeting of Families and to register, visit archmill.org. That's archmill.org. He was murdered almost 35 years ago, and many consider him a martyr. Now, a special Vatican advisory panel is making it official. assassins gunned down Archbishop Oscar Romero during a Mass celebration in March 1980. Thanks to a panel of experts, Romero is one step closer to becoming a saint. The panel declared that the Archbishop had been killed in hatred for the faith, moving his cause to the cardinals and bishops, who vote on whether to advise the Pope to issue a decree of beatification. For all the latest Catholic news at home, across the U.S., and around the globe, pick up your copy of the Catholic Herald and visit us online at CatholicHerald.org. I'm Grace David, sending you back to Living Our Faith with Archbishop Listecki.
Thank you, Grace. And welcome back to Living Our Faith. I'm Bob Bennis, along with Archbishop Listecki. Our guest this morning is the director of the Women's Care Center of Milwaukee, Sharon Hudy. And Sharon, before the break, we were talking a little bit about, we just got into your connection and how you and the Women's Care Center found each other. So if you could expand on that for us.
Absolutely. It was actually in 2008, and I was so taken by this outreach. I felt like I really fit. I felt like this is where I belonged in pro-life. This was the pinnacle for me.
But you had to take the next step, which is to get people interested.
Absolutely.
In the idea. Now, how did that come about?
Well, it was all miracles. The building actually was owned by the bank, and it was for sale at $850,000. And we didn't have that kind of cash on hand. And so the next right thing for us was to start to build a board and started to get introduced to influential people in the community. And they started to advocate for the center moving in on Farwell Avenue. And before long, we had a nice-sized board, and 3 gentlemen actually stepped up and said, we want to help you get in this space. And within a month's time of us kicking the tires on that building, the price dropped to $450,000.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's a miracle. This is how God works. And so we continued moving forward, and these gentlemen said, yes, we absolutely need to get you in this space. The next month, we put an offer in at $250,000, and it was accepted.
Wow. And those 3 names are Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael.
Yeah, exactly. Right? I know I always say it was the Holy Trinity. Absolutely.
What is it that the Women's Care Center focuses on?
In a simplistic way, we always say we're here to love and serve the next woman who walks through our doors. Our focus really is on helping moms to choose life for their babies, take important steps to self-sufficiency, and create nurturing families. That really, in a nutshell, is what we do. On average, women will stay with us 3.5 to 5 years, not because they're depending on us, but because they're learning, they're growing, they're getting those life skills that were lacking when they first came to us. We offer one-on-one birth preparation for new moms who have never been through this process before. Baby care basics so they can learn how to bathe and properly diaper their babies. Oftentimes, actually, what we see, too, is that when we are counseling a young woman and she has her mom or her grandmother with her, we start counseling 3 women, not just one, who might be post-abortive or who may be considering a similar path.
Walk us through, one of your typical clients.
Sure. And I'll tell you, it starts from the outside in. We have these really pretty pink awnings on the outside of the building, very feminine. Our signage says free pregnancy tests and free ultrasounds. It's appealing. It really is to women who come in. They've shared that with us. When you walk into our centers, you are always greeted with a smile. There is no front desk, if you will, at our centers. We have glass on the counselors' offices and our managers' offices so that when that chime rings, when a woman walks through our door, we are there. We are greeting her in a loving way. The centers have often been described as prettier and more comfortable than a doctor's office by our clients and some of our visitors as well, just because we really take good care in making sure that the centers feel like a home. It really does feel like a living room environment when they come. But the bottom line is that, when we bring them into one of our counseling rooms, we're really there to listen. I mean, we are there to listen to what is going on with them. Women are in crisis at this point. So often they say to us, I'm afraid to tell my dad. This is a crisis for them. It's a serious crisis for them. Or I just lost my job. I don't have insurance. I don't have familial support. I'm not married. There are so many of these issues that they deal with every single day. If we can help them tick away at those one at a time and then provide hope and encouragement, to either choose the loving option of adoption, which we do discuss with them, or to choose the path of parenting, then we provide support through those classes, through goal setting. And when they do take part in those programs, then they receive coupons, which are good for all new baby supplies, new cribs, car seats, strollers, clothing up to 5T. So if they have little ones in tow, we can help to support them as well. But it's all new because, you know what, they're working hard for that. And it really helps them to grow in their level of self-esteem and to become the best parents that they can be.
So many of them walk in, and quoting you from the information you provided us and you just touched on, they're broken in some way. They're lonely. They're scared. They're without hope.
That really is true about when women do come to us, they don't necessarily see themselves as we do as moms. And so, for us to help to connect their head with their heart and to really show the true womanly, motherly hearts that they have is so important. And ultrasound is key to that. It's undeniable, to see their little baby grabbing for his or her toes or sucking his or her thumb. I oftentimes call our ultrasound room the womb of motherly tears, because this is truly where the awareness happens and they start to see the truth. Our approach is completely loving and non-judgmental. For those women who do choose an abortion, we love and serve them too, and we provide post-abortive healing and resources to them as well, because we don't want them to also suffer and continue on that path of maybe having a second and third abortion. We want them to know that there's help for them too.
Sharon, put a face on it. You have wonderful clients. I don't know how many saves, hundreds of saves since your
thousands
yes, of saves.
Yes.
Since your existence. Put a face on it without using names or anything. Give us put a face on somebody that you're dealing with that would come back and still be come back and understand what a great blessing the Women's Care Center was.
Sure, absolutely. I think about one of our clients, Cassie. I'll use a pseudonym, but she actually called our hotline. She was in Waukesha, and she called our hotline seeking abortion information. And our counselor encouraged her to come in for that medical grade pregnancy test and ultrasound, and she did. And what was so interesting is that this was not just a woman who was seeking an abortion. This woman had been suffering from childhood with a disease that caused her great bodily pain and extreme exhaustion. And because of all of her visits to the hospitals along the way, she decided to move away from a doctor. And she hadn't seen a doctor since her teen years. Well, now, here she is, pregnant, and she's thinking, how in the world am I going to carry a child with all of this pain and this exhaustion, and to be a parent to this child? Thank God she found us. Thank God she came to us, because we could hear her out. We could talk her through what the risks are with an abortion, and that if she did choose to have an abortion, that she would add a new layer of pain on top of what she was already experiencing physically and emotionally. So first things first, we needed to connect her with a really good medical team, which we have absolutely wonderful doctors, pro-life doctors in our state that can help us. And we did that first, and we were able to help her to get on a pain management plan, to help her through her pregnancy. That started to give her hope. That started to show her that, there are things that could be done differently. It was the ultrasound, though, and just talking with the counselor that helped her to understand that this was more serious than maybe how she was taking it, that she thought, because of the pain that I'm feeling, if I just get rid of this pregnancy, I will be fine. Well, that's not always the case. She's still going to deal with uncertainty and difficulty along the way, but she needed that support system to help her and to let her know that she could do this. We truly do walk every step of the way with our clients. And it was so interesting because She now is mom to a 6-week-old baby girl.
Beautiful.
Isn't that beautiful? But here was the really, really neat thing is that she was diagnosed by this new medical team with postpartum depression. She's been taking classes of ours, one of which is on postpartum depression. And now she has a really good plan to help her medically, physically, emotionally through this new situation that she's facing. So she's going to continue on with us, going to continue doing goal setting. They don't have to give up their dreams. You know, they can still be the best parents that they want to be and need to be, but also to take care of themselves as well.
Many people are called to do different things. You're on the front line. Others individuals are outside praying in the abortion clinic. Some are writing letters. Sometimes individuals have a heart for it, but the only thing they can do is reach in their pockets and offer some donations. If there is listeners out there who want to make a contribution to Women's Care Center, how would they do that?
Absolutely. We are 100% privately funded. So every penny that we receive is just such a blessing. We have so many different opportunities of giving. We have 2 major events each year. Actually, one that's coming up in May 6th, is called Luxury Bingo. It's a hoot. It's so much fun. It harkens back to, your church basement bingo, but you get a little dressed up. You have some cocktails. We do a silent auction, etc. So it's really a lot of fun. We have great prizes for bingo, and it's hilarious to see people, with their daubers in hand and playing bingo. So that's a lot of fun. And then our other is the Golf Classic, which Relevant Radio has been so generous in supporting in the past, and that's September 21st. And you too, you have been so wonderful, Archbishop Listecki, in support of that as well. We're always looking for major underwriters of those events, of course. We also have a capital campaign, which I'm really excited to announce here, that's coming up. We are relocating our outreach on historic Mitchell Street from 12th to 7th. We are going to be on a first floor. Right now we're on a second floor, which is difficult for our moms, not as accessible. It's a storefront property on public transportation near the highway. It's just highly visible, and we know because it's more square footage, 3,000 square feet, we're going to be able to love and serve more moms and babies moving into that space. But we also have opportunities such as supporting a counseling session and an ultrasound for $83, for one mom, or $8,300 for 100 moms. We have so many opportunities of giving, and I would love to share more of those with you one-on-one. Come for a tour, advocate for us. We need prayers and support, all that we can get.
That is the voice of Sharon Hudy. You can hear the passion in her voice for what she does. We can see it here in the studio. She's the director of the Women's Care Center of Milwaukee. And we're going to take a break, and we'll come right back to Living Our Faith.
Hospice. It's the one word that people are afraid to say out loud. Yet for someone who has experienced St. Camilla's Hospice, it takes on a whole new meaning.
We chose St. Camilla's Hospice because it was home hospice. I think it would have broken Lois's heart if she had to leave and go to a strange place. And one of the things that we particularly appreciated was the Catholic help that we got when Lois was in hospice. We had pastoral help. We had chaplains who were absolutely fantastic. They were all so friendly. The hospice care was as good for Lois as it was for me.
Hospice care is a physical and spiritual journey, not just for the patient, but for an entire family. St. Camilla's Hospice provides compassionate care right in your loved one's own home. All caregivers and resources are thoughtfully selected from the St. Camilla's community, which continues to serve your family long after the physical care has ended. To learn more, go to relevantradio.com, keyword hospice.
Welcome back to Living Our Faith, and as always, we want to finish the show with prayer. Archbishop, if you would.
Sure, and a short prayer. Our Lady of Guadalupe, patroness of life, pray for us. And may the blessings of Almighty God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit descend upon us and remain with us forever. Amen.
Amen. Thank you all for joining us. I'm Bob Bennis. This is Living Our Faith.
This has been Living Our Faith with Archbishop Jerome Listecki and co-host Bob Bennis. Join us again next week for the latest news, important issues, and stories of Catholics living their faith in the Archdiocese of Milwaukee.